Good morning, everyone. This is Bremster, and I'm coming to you with the first puzzle that I've actually completed in quite a few weeks. I've gone through a bit of a setting drought, and I've broken it by pulling out some ideas that didn't work for me a couple of months ago. You've heard me mention that I'm not a big fan of ambiguity puzzles, and I decided to try and set one to try and get over that little hurdle. And I struggled with this one. So I made the puzzle, and I solved it, and I sent it off to my testers, and I got some feedback, and it's changed just a little bit since I last solved this. So I've never solved the puzzle in exactly this form, and I don't think I'm the only setter that does this, where I set a puzzle and it gets refined a little bit. And while I know most of the logic in it, I don't know it end to end, like every single step. But I always like to release a video for the puzzles that I'm doing. You'll notice that my setup on the screen is a little bit different, and that's because of the ambiguity, and I wanted to put an option for being able to show what is going on. So the rules on this puzzle are fairly simple, I think. And the title of the puzzle is That 70s Puzzle because of all the dots everywhere. And the rules are pretty simple. So normal Sudoku rules: in every box, in every row, and in every column, the digits 1 to 9 must be placed without repetition. And all of the dots are different dots. And there are 8 different colors of dots, and each color represents a different difference value. So one color dot will be a difference of 1, a different color will be a difference of 2, a different color will be a difference of 3. And it's up to the solver to figure out which dot is which value. So hence the ambiguity puzzle. We do not know what the colors represent. Now, you'll notice in the grid on the right that there are letters in it, and that's because I've set different grids for this based on whether people need colorblind assistance. So there'll actually be a lot of links below. The first one will be to the puzzle in either FPuzzles or the CTC app. And the second set will be to just a grid with this little section off to the side. You can't see my pointer, but the one I'm highlighting, which allows people to put options in. And it's a 9x9 grid, but you're just the right-hand column has the dots on it. And then I will do a same version, which is the colorblind version, which is will be also FPuzzles for both grids, FPuzzles and CTC app, but this time with letters in it. And because some people who watch may struggle with color vision issues, I'm going to try solve it today using the colorblind version, which has these letters in it. I just wanted to show off the pretty clean version before I started solving, but I'm actually going to attempt to solve it on this grid here. So the whole point is to figure out what the difference dots are, and then go from there and try and crack the puzzle. So let's give this a shot. I think that's the first time I've ever used the word crack. I've tried, in regards to a puzzle at least, I've tried to avoid it because that's someone else's thing. Let's give this a shot. So there's a couple of different ways of breaking into this. The first thing I try and notice, and the first thing I set into this puzzle, was these runs of digits in box 1 and box 9. Now, when you've got a run of digits that all see each other like this, if you think about it, you will realize that all of those need to only have a difference no bigger than 4, because particularly when they're in the same box like this, if we would have a difference bigger than 4, then we would hit an issue where we would have to go either below 1 or above 9. Because if we were to start at 1 and the difference was 5 even, we would go up to 6, and we can't go back down to go back to 1 because it's within the same box or row or column. So we would have to go up, and if we go up by the same value, we would need to put an 11 in, and we just can't do it. It just doesn't work. So the only way you can do a run of digits without going up and back down to exactly the same digit is to keep the difference value from 1 to 4. And if it's 4, you are also quite constrained. So B, E, or orange, cyan, blue, and purple all need to be 1, 4. So if I go over to the grid, and unfortunately you can't see my cursor on this because of the way OBS records, but if I pick those, they all need to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, which tells me that red, yellow, green, and white need to be 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the reason I put 5, 6, 7, and 8 is because you cannot have a difference value of 9. Because a difference value of 9, if I started at 1, the next digit would be a 10, which is not a valid Sudoku number. So the highest difference value you have is an 8. And we know from this there are 8 different color dots. There must be an 8 in the grid. And if we think about that, whatever has a difference value of 8, there is only one option, 1 and 9 on either side of that dot. Now, we know that those 5, 6, 7, and 8 is red, yellow, green, and white. And I'm looking over on my second screen where I've got that second grid. You see it all in one together, but for me, it's split over. So that was red, yellow, green, and white. Row 5, column 5 has a red, a yellow, a green, and a white off it. So we know that one of these is going to be a difference of 5, one will be a 6, one will be a 7, one will be an 8. So we know that there will be a difference of 8 somewhere off row 5, column 5. So that has to be a 1 or 9. Now we want to try and eliminate and figure out which dot is that. So if it was red, this would be a 1, 9 pair, but there is another red in the box, so that would also be a 1, 9 pair. So we can go over to red and say red is not a difference of 8. Green has the same problem. If green was that, both of those, all 4 of those cells would have to be 1, 9, which doesn't work. So green is not the 8. If we look at the white, all of those would have to be 1, 9, all in the same box, does not work. White is not the 8, and all of a sudden the only thing that is left that can be the 8 is the yellow, and that becomes 1, 9. We have another yellow in the grid, so that is also a 1, 9 pair. And we've got our first digit restriction and difference dot determined. Now we can go back and look at these. One of those is going to have to be a difference of 4 because of the things we figured out before. There are 4 different colors, all forming these runs, and none of those can be 5 or we immediately break the rules of Sudoku. So one of them has to be 4. And if we think about a 4, if you start at 1, the next digit is a 9, 5, and the next digit is a 9. So one of them is going to have to be a 1, 5, 9 run. We can look at orange and immediately say orange cannot be a 1, 5, 9 run, because if it was, that would be broken. So we can go over to orange and say orange is not the 4 because 4 needs to be 1, 5, 9. We can look at purple. It's pink. It depends on which screen you're looking at on. We can look at what is defined as purple. This is red and blue in even mix. Purple just shows up as pink. G. We can look at this and say that if this was the 1, 5, 9, that cell would have no value. So we can look at the purple and say that the purple can't be the 4. So this leaves us with either the blue or the cyan as the 4. But we know that whichever it is has to be a 1, 5, 9 run. And if we made this the 1, 5, 9, there's a second one in row 2. So if this was a 4, this would be 1, 5, 9, and that would be 1, 5, 9. So cyan cannot be the 4. And that leaves us with only one option for the 4, which is the blue, which we know has to be 1, 5, and 9. So that's a run of 1, 5, 9. Now, there is another run of 3 blues in the same box, which also has to be 1, 5, 9 because we need to have the 4 difference, and the only way to do that is with 1, 5, 9. We now have 1, 5, 9 taken up, and 1, 5, 9 cannot go in those cells. 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 Basically, 1, 5, 9 is roped in columns 7, 8, rows 7, 8, and 9. These must be 1, 5, 9. There is a 1, 9 pair looking at that cell. That must be the 5, and those are a 1, 9 pair. And we're able to determine that fairly quickly. So this is basically where you get to before you start having to play around with this horrible run of dots in the middle. So what we've determined is we've determined that blue is 4, and we've determined that yellow, red, and green are high difference dots, and that cyan, orange, and purple are low difference dots, but we don't know which are which. So what can we eliminate? I think the first thing we should look at is green. So green is either a difference of 5, 6, or 7. Now, if you think about it, if this was a difference of 7, we can't use 1 or 9 in either of those. So with a difference of 7, the lowest I could make it is 2. And if it was a difference of 7, it would have to jump up to 9. And because I'm bounded by 2 and 8, the maximum I could make that is 6. So we know that green cannot be 7, because this would have to either be 1, 8 or 2, 9. So that means that green is not 7. For green to be 6, it would have to be 2, 8. So we now have 7 on either red or white. So one of those has to be 7 different from 1 or 9. So if it's a 1, one of those is going to be an 8. And if it's a 9, one of them is going to be a 2. And similarly down here. So these are going to be either the what's the best way forward from here, actually? I know that green is 5 or 6. So possibly this digit. If this is 5 away, this will be 6 or 7 if it's a 1. And if it's a 9, it will be a 4 or a 3. This is a 3, 4, 6, 7. Now we know that blue is 4. So this will make this, if it's 3, it'll be 7. If it's 4, it will be 9. No, 4, it'll be 8. If it's 6, it has to go down 4, which makes it 2. And if it's 7, it'll be 3. So this is 2, 3, 7, 8. What's the elimination? Trying to remember. I've forgotten the next step. I've forgotten the next step. I know it's in this box. These are the same difference. So this is a 1, 9. So whatever this is, it will go, because this has to be a high difference dot, this will jump up. So if this is 1 or 9, it'll jump to 7, 8, and then the same difference down again will jump it back to the 1, 9. So these two digits are the same. But that's not what I'm looking for. Red, 5, 6, or 7. But that gives me all sorts of options in here. So 5 difference. Yeah, that gives me 6 difference leaves this is 2 and 8. And if this was 2 and 8, this would be 3, 7, which would have made this 6 difference. And then 4 difference from 3 and 7. Hang on, can I get a 4 difference there? this is 3, 7. What's 4 different from 3? This would also be 3, 7. So I'd have 2, 8, 3, 7. This would be 4, 5, and 6. That's These two are the same digits from 1 or 9. So this is an equivalent pair. So if red was 5, this would be 4, 6, and this would be 4, 6. So these have to match. So if these were both... So, okay, if... I didn't think this was the way I did this originally, but if green was 6, this would be 2, 8. If this was 2, 8, red would be 7, and this would also be 2, 8. So I'd end up with 3 cells that have to be 2, 8 if green is 6. Green needs to be 5. And just to show you what happens there, in order for green to be 6, this can only be 2, 8. The difference here is 7, and then the difference down here is 7, and 7 different from 1 is 8, 7 different from 9 is 2, and I've got 3 cells that are 2, 8. That does not work. So what I end up with is, let me just roll all that back. Yeah. So what I end up with is green must be 5. I can take 5 out of red. I can take 5 out of white. So I've got a 6 or a 7 in red and yellow. Red and white. So this must be 6 or 7 apart. And green is 5. So 5 away does not give me 3 or 7. It only gives me 4 or 6. 4 or 6, 4 away from 4 or 6. 4 away from 4 is 8, not 7. And 4 away from 6 is 2, not 3. So this is a 2 or an 8. Now, if red was 7, then this would go 1 to 8, and I would again have 3 2 8s. That does not work. Red must be 6 so that I can make these both a 3 7 pair. And if that's a 6, then white is 7, which I've got from all of that anyway, which makes this a 2 8, and these become a 4 5 6, with there must be a 5 in there. That's a little bit tricky, probably the trickiest part of the puzzle, I think, where you've got to try and use these values to try and narrow down what your options are. Okay, so what can we now do in here? We can look at orange and we can see that there is nothing in here that can be 3 away from 4 or 3 away from 6. 3 away from 4 is 1 or 7. 3 away from 6 is 3 or 9. None of those are a 3 difference. I can take 3 out of orange. I can do similar, I think, on the cyan, where 2 I can't put 1 or 3 in here, and 8 I can't put 7 or 9, so cyan cannot be 1. So cyan is 2 or 3. That does work for any of these, I think, because 6 can go to 3, 5 can go to 3 or 7, 4 can go to 7. Now, we're narrowing it down. So 4, 5, and 6. I've got a value of 4 different. So if it's 4, it's 8. If it's 5, it's 1 or 9. And if it's 6, I go down to 2. We don't know. Cyan is 2 or 3. If it's 2, then 5 will go with 3 or 7. If it's 3, then it will go with 2 or 8. We know red is 6 different and it cannot be 1 9. So this must be a 2 8 pair because again we've got the restriction on the 2 and the you've got the restriction, so the compression, because you can't use 1 9 of the biggest difference you've got between the digits 2 and 8 is 6. Red is 6, so that must be forced to be a 2 8 pair. We know the difference between these are 4, so 2 goes up to 6 and 8 goes down to 4, so this is a 4 6. So we've got 3, 4, 6, and 7 in here, but we don't quite yet know whether this is a 1, 2, or 3 difference. Now, if this is a 1 difference, we'd have 3, 4, that's fine. If this was a 2 difference, the only option we would have is 4 and 6, which would conflict with this. So we can take 2 out of the pink, purple, the dot value. So we now know that this has to either be a 1 or a 3 difference in purple. Now this is a little bit constrained. Because we know that cyan has to be a 2 or a 3 difference only, this can't be a 1. It can't be a 2, because if it was a 2 difference, I'd have to go down to a 0. And if when I went down, can't be a 3, could be a 4, can't be a 5, can be a 6 or a 7. But if it was an 8, again, when I go 2 or 3 up, I will break. It can only be a 7 if the difference is a 2, where I can be actually it can't be a 7, because if it was a 7, then if the difference is 2, I've got to use 5 and 9, and if the difference is 3, I need to go up to 10, so that can't be a 7. This is a 4 6. So this is probably the final trick in the puzzle, which is asking, can E or can cyan be 2? And this is where probably the parity trick on the puzzle. If E or cyan is 2, then this is 3 odd digits. And for this, I'm going to use colouring just for this, and then I'll get rid of it. So these would be 3 odd digits. Now up here, these would be 3 digits of the same parity. So these would be 3 even digits. And these would need to be 2 digits of the same parity, which would look fine. They would need to be odd. Except down here, what I've used is 3, 5, and 7. So the 2 digits I would have to use in there are 1 and 9, which are not 2 different. So and I can't use 2 even digits because I've used 3 even digits in the column already. So what breaks cyan or E from being 2 is I run out of parity options in column 2. So all of a sudden, cyan needs to be 3, which forces purple to be 1, which forces orange to be 2, and I now have the complete set of difference dots figured out. Once the difference dots are figured out, we can do a fair bit more work. So we've got the 6, which we already had, and the 4. We now know this has to have a difference value of 3. If this was a 6, this would need a 3 and a 9. We can't use the 3. This has to be a 4. Difference value of 3 from 4 is a 1 and a 7. This takes 7 out of there. Well, we know the difference value on this from 5 is 2 and 8, so we need to leave 2 and 8 in there. We now have these 3 digits as 3, 6, and 9, all that's not in the column. If we were to put 6 down here, this would be 3 and 9, which are not 3 different, so we can't put a 6 down the bottom. This is a 3, 9. There is a 1, 9 already in row 9. This becomes a 3, and we take 3 out of here. We've got 9s there, 9s there. We need to put 9s down here. This cannot be a 9. I've probably got more I can do, but I'm trying to figure it out in probably a strange order. I remember having more around here, but I've probably skipped ahead to the trick. So what's next, I wonder? We now know this is a 1 difference, so it's either 3, 4 or 6, 7. We know that this is a 1 difference, so this is a 4, 6 pair, or because they're what's on one either side of the 5. Green is 5, which we've got. This is 2, so we can't put a 5 in here because 5 is not different from either 4 or 6. So this becomes the 5. 4 different from 5 is only the 1 because we can't put the 9 in there anymore. So this becomes the 9. This becomes the 1. 5. Cyan is 3, so this is 3 different. That's actually all good. Orange is 2 different, which is still fine. We need to put a 5 up there somewhere. 6 different from 1 is either 7. 6 different from 9 is 3, so this is a 3 or a 7. I'm really bad at this math. Where's the trick I am missing? 2, 8, 6, 9. We know that these are 2 different, so that must be 2 and 6. This 2, 6 makes that an 8, makes that a 2. 4 different from 8 is 4, which takes 4 out of there, which because of this is a 1 difference, takes the 3 out of there. This is a 6, 7, which makes that a 3. We know that 3 different from 3 is 6. That makes that a 4. The 3 makes that a 7. We know that 6 different from 7 is 1, which makes that a 9. We know that green is 5, or D is 5. 5 different from 7 is 2, which makes that 8. We know that these two had to be the same, so that's the 1. That 1 makes that 9, which makes that 1. We need to put a 9 in one of those two. That 1 makes that 7, which makes that 1. These are, I believe, 3, 5, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so these are 3, 5, and 7. There's a 5, 7, so that becomes a 3. There is no 3. This is a 7. This is a 5. We know that this is a difference of 6, so that becomes the 1. That becomes the 9. That becomes the 1. That becomes the 9. Those 9s, remove both of those. This becomes a 9. Orange is a difference of 2, so we get a 7 right there. We've got 7s, so we need to put a 7 in row 6. We can't put it in either of those. That becomes a 7. We need to put a 7 down here somewhere. That 9 is looking back, making that a 6 and making that a 9. And theoretically, we should just be mostly cleaning up now. Although the Sudoku, if I remember correctly, does stay a little bit tricky. That's not a 5. In here, we need to put 6, 7, and 9. There is no 7 in there. That's the 7. So this is a 6, 9 pair. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, and 8 go in there. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 2 and 3. Across here we got 2, 4, and 8. What am I missing? Is it this dot? Oh yes, 2 different from 5 is 7, which makes that a 6, which matches the 1 difference we need from purple. That 6 makes that 4, which makes that 6. That 4 looks back, making that 8, which matches the difference we needed for cyan of 3, which makes that 4. We've still got the 2, 3. Across here we need 2, 3, and 7. That can't be 7, so that's a 2, 3. That becomes a 7. 2, 3, and 8 go into the bottom row. I'm umming a lot. These 3 digits are 5, 8, and 9. There is no 9 in either of those, so that's a 9. We've got the 5, 8 in here. This column is mostly done. I need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. There is no 2 there. There is no 3 there. There is no 8 there. That's not helpful. I'm pretty certain all the dots are now pretty much done. So we've figured out all the difference. Oh, that one. That's not done. That has to be 3 different from 8. I can't go down. That has to be a 5. So 5, 5. I need to put 5 in one of those two. So that fills most of this row. I need 2, 3, 4, and 6. So these are 2, 3, and 4. I can't put 6 in that box, so that becomes the 6. That's not a 3. Now it's just down to Sudoku that I am missing. That's a 6. That's a 9. I need to put 6 in this bottom row, which means I put a 6 there. 6, 6, 6. I think is that all the 6s? Not quite. I need to put a 6 in one of those two. What about this? I need to put 1, 3, 5, and 8. So 1 is in one of those two. 3, 5 is in one of those two. This is 2, 5, or 8. What am I missing? I don't remember the ending Sudoku being this tricky. Two, 3, 4, 8. So there is a 4. No, wait. There's no 3 in there. That's a 3. That's a 2. That's a 3. This is a 2, 8 pair. So this becomes 4, 7. So that's 7 and that's 4. This is not 7. That 4 looks up, making that 2. That is not 2. That's 8. That's 2. This is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, which is not appear to be resolved. These are 3, 4, and 5. That's not 4. Hang on, there's something. That's 5. That's not 5. This is a 3, 4. Wait, that 5, 8 is looking down, making that 6. Oh dear, making that 8. I've never done that before. That's 2. That's 6. That's 3. That's 4. That's 3. That 3 is making that 8, which is making that 2. That's now 5. That 5 looks back, making that 8 and making that 5. These are 3 and 4. That 3 makes that 4 and makes that 3. These, I can take 8 out of those, so that's 2 and 4. So that becomes 2. That becomes 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, which is resolved by that 1. That's the 8. That's the 1. That becomes a 2, and I put in an 8, and that completes the puzzle. And that's how you do that 70s puzzle. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that as my first ambiguity puzzle. I think the discovery of the dots and the way you can eliminate them down and figure out what all of these values are is quite interesting. And I think that the logic you need to use in boxes 1 and boxes 9, and then sort of doing some tricky eliminations in box 5 and pushing out slowly is good. I'm very happy with that puzzle. I hope that you enjoyed the solve and you investigate more of my puzzles on my Logic Masters Germany page, which I will also have linked below. I will, when I eventually release this on Logic Masters Germany, I'll probably release this on Logic Masters Germany at about the same time as I launch this video. I will I'll make sure there's a link to this puzzle on Logic Masters Germany below as well. Again, thank you to Sotec for testing and to all of my other people who've looked at the puzzle. And I hope to see you again soon. Have a good day, everyone.